First, a bit of background. This happened in the summer, and I believe I was about 12 at the time. I was staying in a hotel in a fairly large city with my mum and my younger brother. We were visiting other extended family, but chose not to stay at their house. My brother is younger than me by a decent amount, so I was usually told to keep an eye on him. On the day we arrived, my mum told me to do just that, while she checked us in and received our room card. So, my brother and I sat down on a couch in the lobby and relaxed a little bit. While we were sitting, a man in about his mid-40s walked into the hotel. The couch was facing the hotel doors, so I got a good look at him. I remember that he was very average looking. Describing his features in full detail could generate several different images. The guy comes in and sits on the couch opposite ours. I didn't think anything of it until I realised that he didn't go up to the counter first. He just came in and sat down. It made me feel a little uncomfortable. I thought that he might have followed us in. Thankfully, my mum called us over and told us that our room was ready. We left the lobby and went to our room. Shortly afterwards, we left the hotel to go meet family. I forgot about the man for the rest of the day. We returned around 7, and my mum told us we could go swimming in the hotel pool. We all went to our rooms, changed, and went into the pool. A few minutes after we got in the water, the same man from before walked in and sat down. He was wearing jeans and a sweater, so he definitely wasn't going swimming. Again, we didn't think much of it, until I could see that my mum was visibly worried. She pointed him out to me, and said that if he didn't leave within 5 minutes, we needed to go back to our rooms. 5 minutes passed and he was still there, so we got our things and left. By then it was close to 8 PM. We had bought a rented movie to watch, so we planned to watch that and then go straight to bed. I noticed that my mum was a little on edge because of the man watching us, and I got a little more worried myself too. Halfway through the movie, my mum got up to get in the shower. While she was in there, someone knocked on the door and said, "Housekeeping," in a high-pitched voice. I thought it was weird that the cleaning staff would come this late, but we needed another towel, so I answered the door. I wish I hadn't been so stupid. It was the creepy man. He gave me a little smile and a little wave. I just stood there, kinda motionless. My mind automatically went to the worst possible situations. I heard the water in the shower turn off. He stood there as well for a moment, and then he spoke. "How was your swim?" At that moment, my mum came out of the shower, saw the man at the door, pulled me back and slammed the door. She locked it. Then she called the front desk from our hotel room phone to report the guy. I told her to just call the police, but she didn't listen. She then requested we switch rooms. I then heard footsteps stomping down the hallway away from our room. Thankfully, the guy had left. After that, we switched hotel rooms and didn't see the guy again during our stay. Hotel stalker, let's not meet. A little bit of background information for you guys. I'm female, and I work as a receptionist at a small hotel. Due to only having 40 rooms, it isn't viable to have 2 members of staff work at the same time, as there's very little to do at the busiest of times. So I work alone from 3 PM till 11 PM. The man was called Dr. Andrews, and he quickly became a regular, staying with us most of the week, presumably for work like most of our guests did. From the moment I first checked him in, I was getting very uneasy vibes from him. He would hunch over the reception desk and try to bridge the gap between us as much as possible, leering at me over his glasses. And I mean leering, wide-eyed and intense, accompanied by very audible breathing. He wasn't much to look at either. He actually looked like a stereotypical predator, late 50s with a grizzled beard, quite tall and overweight. He would always try to initiate conversation, and I was obliged to be polite. It was my job to be friendly and welcoming to guests. But it was always turned slightly sinister, and he would ask probing questions about when my shift ended, if I lived alone or with family, etc. Obviously, the red light popped up straight away, and I gave the general vague answers. He would never break the lusty eye contact with me either, which was so damn creepy. After a few days, I noticed him becoming very determined to see me. We had CCTV in the back room, and I would watch him hover about in reception for a long time, watching and waiting. I knew he didn't need anything, as there's a buzzer at reception for guests, which pages the receptionists. The odd time I would purposely go out, he would act like he was just passing through, pretending he hadn't been stood around for minutes. Soon though, he began asking me out on dates and asking for my number. I got very uncomfortable and firmly told him that I do not give my contact information out, or go on dates with people I don't know, especially guests. I wish I could have told him no, because he is old enough to be my father, and shouldn't be harassing younger women, but it was more than my job's worth. He took it quite badly, and I didn't see him for the rest of the evening, until 10 PM. I was preparing all the banking sheets and boring paperwork for the shift's end, when I caught a glimpse of him on CCTV. He actually pressed the buzzer to my surprise, and I ventured out to find what he wanted. He explained that he had locked his key inside his room and wondered if I could let him in. It wasn't a strange request. Lots of guests do this, as we are yet to have the key card doors installed. It's quite an old hotel. I immediately went to the spare key cabinet, but a few were missing, and typically, one of those missing ones was to his spare room. I felt a bit apprehensive, but came out of our reception and said I'd open his door for him with a master key, which has to be on our person at all times. As he was following me down the corridor, I felt him getting very close to me. I knew he'd be getting an eyeful, and I tried to ignore his peevish tendencies. We came to his door, and I avoided looking at him as much as I could. But as I was unlocking it, I felt a slight pressure on my back, like he was pushing me into the door. My mind hadn't had time to register it before another guest, Mike, came through the set of doors. He was a regular and knew me quite well. Noticing something was wrong, he shouted to Dr. Andrews. I turned to see the guest, and in that moment, saw that Andrews had his arm against the doorframe behind me. He quickly pulled it away, then scrambled into his room. My heartbeat thudded for a moment as I walked over to Mike, who asked if I was okay. We walked back to reception, and he said that it looked like he was about to push me into that room. He had blocked my exit with his arm, and being a big guy, he could have very easily overpowered me. The thing that struck me was the fact that Andrews didn't come back out of the room. If you lock a key in your room, you're obviously on your way out somewhere. It's apparent that he organised it to get me into his room, which is very creepy and unsettling. He never checked in again. Yeah, Dr. Andrews, let's not meet again. This happened in 2010 when I was 11 years old. I have 5 siblings, and we were driving from Colorado to Arizona, with all kids being between the ages of 5 and 13, and just my mum with us. I remember it being about 10 at night, and my mum was so exhausted that we stopped at a hotel in the middle of nowhere in Utah, being 2 to 3 hours away from where we were originally supposed to stop. We went in, and the guy working the lobby told my mum that there weren't any rooms. Kids were crying and nodding off. Mum was begging him to check again because we were far away from civilization. I have no idea why the hotel was full, as I remember it being pretty big, but it was. Cue the creepy guy. I remember him being late 20s or early 30s, white guy with shaggy brown hair. He'd been sitting in the lobby when we came in, but approached my mum when she was nearly in tears at the worker. The creepy guy said, "I have a room you can stay in if you want." My mum obviously freaked out a little and said, "No, that's okay." Creepy guy continued, "There's 2 twin beds, it'll be fine." My mum replied, "Really, it's okay. My husband is expecting us at the next stop." A lie. The man doubled down. "Here, I have an extra key. You're obviously tired. Come lay down and rest. I'll buy another room for your kids." Being, 10, I didn't see an issue with this, nor did I notice that the guy in the lobby had just said there's no more rooms. So, creepy guy couldn't have even gotten a separate room. I just remember the guy insisting even as my mum gathered all of us 6 kids and pulled us closer. She thanked the lobby guy and rushed us all out. Creepy guy followed us out the door, insisting that we take his room. Thankfully, my mum had parked out front in the little roundabout, so she practically threw us all in the car and drove off. I remember her sobbing as soon as we got out of the parking lot, but being too scared to pull over. Us kids were obviously confused, asking why she didn't stay, dumb kid shit like that. My mum explained that was just a creepy guy, and if someone ever does something like that we don't know, don't trust them. We're pretty sure that guy was maybe following us. The car following us kept flashing their brights, then turning the lights all the way off and pulling in close, before flashing them on again. This continued for an hour after leaving the hotel. The road was empty otherwise. We stopped at a gas station once the guy stopped following us, so my mum could get some coffee and we could make it the rest of the way to our stop. I still remember how terrified my mum was, and how scared we kids were as we turned around in our seats to watch the car following us. Definitely one of the scariest things that's ever happened to me.